On the record in People versus Jennifer Hiller, file number 244956 and 244976. The record should reflect that Ms. Hiller is present here in the courtroom today.
Ryan Ziegler on behalf of people, Your Honor.
This is the date and time set for sentencing in this matter. Ms. Hiller, did you have a chance to go through the pre-sentence report and talk to Mr. Seeger about that?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Seeger, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections that need to be made?
Your Honor, I did have an opportunity to speak with probation and parole relative to some minor changes. However, in speaking of corrections, they're unable to change that based on their research. The only thing that I can specifically ask the court to consider changing would be her education level, which indicates that she has a 10th grade education, but she represents that she has a GED. But when I had spoken to the Department of Corrections, they were unable to verify that through a previous pre-sentence report. However, Ms. Hiller stated that she doesn't think GED.
Mr. Ziegler?
I don't take a position.
Okay. The court will order to that the PSI be amended to reflect that the defendant indicates she did obtain a GED. Any other corrections?
No other material additions, corrections, or deletions.
Are there any challenges to the scoring of the guidelines?
There are not. Your Honor.
Mr. Ziegler, do the people have any additions, deletions, or corrections?
No, Your Honor.
Challenges to the scoring?
No, Your Honor.
Anything on behalf of the people for allocution today?
Your Honor, if there's one thing that sums up Jennifer Hiller, it's 115 PRV points. Ms. Hiller is 28 years of age. She has been eligible to have adult convictions on her record for around 10 years. And in those 10 years, she has 10 felony convictions. Ignoring her 8 juvenile adjudications, she has felony convictions for larceny in a building, stealing a financial transaction device, illegal use of a financial transaction device, another larceny in a building, possession of meth again, larceny over 1,000, possession of narcotics, and a third larceny in a building. This along with several petty drug crimes and petty theft crimes. Your Honor, I've been prosecuting Jennifer Hiller since the time I came to Kalkaska County in 2017, and I feel like I will be prosecuting Jennifer Hiller for as long as I remain in this office. The only time Ms. Hiller is not reoffending and stealing property is when she is incarcerated, and the second she is released from incarceration, she steals again. On December 29th, 2020, she was paroled for a felony larceny offense, and on February 26th, 2021, about 2 months later, she committed a new larceny offense. She paroled on that offense on March 12th, 24, and on June 3rd, 24, she committed a new felony larceny offense and then was later arrested for that offense with meth in her possession. If recidivism were an Olympic sport, Jennifer Hiller would either earn a gold medal or she would steal one. She's not a candidate for supervision. She has repeatedly and consistently failed on probation, on parole, on deferral programs such as drug court. She's not a candidate for community sanction. She's already has 3 active parole cases in Otis and violated parole by committing this offense. Our sanctions for high severity felonies such as this, Your Honor, should not lessen over time, especially for someone with Ms. Hiller's astonishingly poor track record. There's simply no reasonable likelihood Ms. Hiller will be rehabilitated. She has repeatedly demonstrated that if she has the opportunity to steal property or use drugs, she will do so. Nothing has served to deter her behavior in the past. Not probation, not jail, not prison, not deferral programs, not parole. She will simply reoffend again, Your Honor. The only thing we can do at this point is prevent Ms. Hiller from offending in our community for as long as possible by sending her to prison for 23 months. So that is what I would ask the court to do today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Seeger.
I can't really diminish that Ms. Hiller has a pretty extensive criminal history, and I've been her attorney since she was a juvenile, so I'm very familiar with Ms. Hiller. And it's unfortunate for Ms. Hiller. She has struggled a lot in life. She has made a lot of bad decisions. Why she makes those decisions is not entirely clear to me. She hasn't always had the best of life. She hasn't always had the easy of life. I think that she has been mixed with a lot of people who have similar life problems with use and drug addiction, such that it's creeped into her life and has just become a pervasive part of her life. And it's unfortunate because she's still relatively young. And in as much as I understand what Mr. Ziegler is saying, that she has a long, extensive criminal history, I would like to think that she's still capable of change in as much as she's still only 28 years old. In this particular case, Your Honor, Mr. Ziegler is correct. Originally, when she was paroled, she was charged with an embezzlement case. That case was dismissed, and it wasn't just part and parcel of a plea agreement, Your Honor. It was that they were not going to be able to prove it at trial, or at least that's my belief. Moreover, Your Honor, restitution wasn't part and parcel of my agreement because, again, I don't think that they were ever going to be able to prove it. She continues to deny it as untrue. But be that as it may, Your Honor, she's not being sentenced for an embezzlement. She's not being sentenced for a larceny. She's being sentenced for what happened in this case, which was that of her being in possession of a small amount of methamphetamine. In speaking with the probation department, Your Honor, it's my understanding the reason why the recommendation is the way that it is, despite them recognizing that she has a long criminal history, is primarily because of the amount that was encapsulated or that she was found with. It was a very minuscule amount. It was residue. There was no indication whatsoever that she was trafficking drugs. There's no indication that she was selling it. There's no indication that if anything, it was a leftover amount of residue for which she had been using personally. I say this quite often, Your Honor. I only say it for the benefit of Ms. Hiller, because she's not here every time that I do the drug sentencing of some sort, but that people who have addictions struggle with those addictions. It is a malum in prohibitum style case. It is not malum in se. And in as much as I think that is a very poor life choice for people who use drugs, it's a choice that she's made either through necessity or as a coping mechanism, or just generally making a bad choice. But she's not probably hurting anyone other than herself in that way. Unfortunately for Ms. Hiller, she's on parole. She has served a lot of dead time. I understand that the court does not take that into consideration per se, but the recommendation is for a county year. And I don't want to diminish what a county year means, right? Because I guess for us as attorneys who are in circuit court, a county year probably doesn't seem that long. But for an ordinary individual to serve a year in jail is a very significant period of time. Ms. Hiller was incarcerated for an extended period of time due to her parole, which again, she doesn't get credit for. But that didn't make things any easier for her in terms of gaining stability. That is, just like you said in the last sentencing, Your Honor, that only puts her further behind. And I'd like to think that when Ms. Hiller is done, that she'll get into treatment, which she had indicated that she's hopeful that she can get into treatment. She's been taking advantage of classes while she's been incarcerated. She's doing the things that she could do. At one point in time during the course of this case, she was trying to get into drug treatment, at which point I think the court had said, well, I might consider it as sentencing if you enter into a plea or you're otherwise convicted, or if there's some other remedy where that might be a possibility, but that's not the time currently. But now as we come to sentencing, Your Honor, I guess the larger question is whether it's the court what to do. Is it either A, or to follow the recommendation and give her a county year, or B, is it going to send her to prison? And I guess if I look at it just from Mr. Ziegler's perspective, I could see where maybe arguably prison might be a possibility. On the other hand, if I look at it and I attempt to look at it objectively, she's done nothing wrong other than to further compound her own personal bad choices in life. And again, using drugs doesn't help anyone, or at least that's my opinion. Whether or not everyone shares that opinion, I guess that doesn't matter. But she wasn't really hurting anyone other than herself, Your Honor. She's lost a lot of time due to her drug addiction, lack of coping mechanisms. And because she wants to get into treatment, I think that that's a helpful thing for her, because unlike certain people, she is going to come back to this community no matter what the court sentences. She has family here, she's from here, she's coming back, whether it's from prison return or whether she gets county time. And I just assume that she get the treatment that she needs, that she's always needed. And I guess, you know, in certain people's lives, and hopefully in Miss Hiller's life, which expressed to me that all the time that she spent incarcerated has never helped her further her objectives of becoming stable or having a good, meaningful life. It's always put her behind. And she acknowledges fault through the things that she's done. But she's now come to the realization, and maybe it's too little too late, but hopefully it's not, that she needs to change and she wants to do that, which is probably more powerful than the court ordering somebody to get into treatment or engage in a specific program of some sort. So to that end, Your Honor, Ms. Hiller is just hopeful that the court will follow the recommendation. She accepts fault for what she's done. But again, Your Honor, she's still a young person. This is not like an assault type situation where she assaulted someone or victimized someone. This is a situation where, if anything, she's victimized herself and her family. You know, her attitude has changed significantly through the course of the case. Her having interacted with Jennifer quite a few times over the years, you know, she has been difficult at times, and she's struggled to accept responsibility for certain things. But in this moment, I think that she's had somewhat of a life change, and she's hopeful that she'll be able to turn the corner. And again, and I've already said this, a year in jail is a very substantial amount of time. It really is. And whether it's 23 months or 12 months, any period of incarceration is meaningful. And I'm hopeful that when she comes out, she'll find meaningful employment. I'm hopeful that she'll maintain her sobriety because she's been off drugs for a period of time. There's no reason for her to have a relapse now. She wants to get into treatment. Hopefully that will give her the tools to address her underlying problems she uses. She is sorry that she finds herself in this position. So I'm just asking the court to give her one final opportunity to follow the recommendation, which I do understand the points that Mr. Ziegler made, but unfortunately, Ms. Wagner is very familiar with Ms. Hiller as well. So felt the need to make that recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Hiller. Anything that you wanted to say tonight?
Yes, I do. I have a letter that you
Okay.
I will say. Some things the prosecution always point out right before they say they've exhausted all their resources when it comes to helping me overcome my flaws. Drug addict, menace to society, danger to the community, never ends or excessive record. Mother, daughter, student, sexual abuse and domestic violence survivor, loving, kind-hearted, and generous is a side of me the court doesn't see or point out. On March 12th, 2024, I was released from prison. Not long after, I found myself in a downward spiral that I couldn't bring myself out of on my own. I felt like my life was a temptation with no escape, an obsession with no end, an addiction with no cure. Prior to my incarceration, I called Anna Marie and got myself funding to go to inpatient treatment. 2 days later, I was arrested for my current charges. During this time, I've been honest and forthcoming. I take full responsibility for my actions. I know and acknowledge that I have a serious drug addiction that I dream and desire to overcome. With over 200 days clean, I'm proud to say that I still call every week to reserve my spot in an intensive outpatient treatment in a girls' home in Petoskey through Bear River. I also attend all groups that the jail offers, including CMH. I sincerely apologize to any and everybody involved. Your Honor, I'm asking you please to allow me to continue what I've started. I know I deserve more jail time and I accept that. Please allow me to serve a jail sentence that allows me to go to treatment. And I also have all the certificates and letters and stuff from all the groups that I was attending while incarcerated. I have Catholic Human Services and AANA, Healing Private Wounds, everything that I had earned to show that I was going to groups, and that just because I'm in jail doesn't mean I still don't want to continue what I started. I knew I had a problem prior to me getting arrested. I called and got myself treatment, but of course I had to wait on bedding and waiting for somebody to leave, or just, and then 2 days later I got arrested. But since I've been down, I thought I'd hit my rock bottom before, but this time I learned that my rock bottom had a basement. I lost my son. I lost everything. So I really would like the chance to attend this Bear River outpatient where they approved me for a tea house in Petoskey, where I have to do groups and meetings, and they help me with transportation for a job, and I have to pay a rent every month. It gives me the supervision kind of that I want to help progress and show me how to live an adult life, how to be the mother that I desire to be. I can't make excuses for why I use drugs. Things happened in the past, but I take the easy way out because that's my comfort zone. But I'm sick of taking the easy way out. I'm sick of not being able to call my child and talk to them, or my family saying, you know, we're not gonna make it if you go to prison again. Like I'm losing everything. I would just ask you, please allow me to stay in jail, not go back to prison so I can do treatment and get the help that I really need.
All right, I did read through the report. I'm familiar with your circumstances. Generally, you know, you've been in front of me before. So I'm familiar with what brings you before the court here today and kind of your past issues. I'm not really going to address your past record. I think Mr. Ziegler did a good job of outlining the problems that you've had. You know, in terms of rehabilitation, you're only 28, right? So you're still really young, from my perspective, really young. You still have a lot of life ahead of you, and you still have a lot of opportunities to get things back on track. Your record, of course, is going to be something that follows you, and you're going to be battling that for the rest of your life. But in terms of rehabilitation, I'm always of the opinion that people can turn their lives around at any point, whether they're young or old or otherwise. So I think you certainly do have the potential for that. I think the real question for the court is that something that you should do on the people's time? In other words, while you're serving your punishment, or is it something that you need to do on your own? And when I look at your record, you were on probation 4 times as a juvenile, 5 times as an adult. That's 9 times on probation. That didn't correct your behavior. 10 jail sentences, that didn't do it, and of course 3 prison sentences. So at this point, you've run out of chances for the court to give you opportunities to attend treatment during a sentence. Because at this point, I have no reason based on your past conduct to expect that you're going to do something different. And so I'm just not going to commit public resources to that because of the number of times that you've had a chance to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't seek that on your own. And if you really want to make a change, that's eventually what you're going to do. But I think Mr. Ziegler makes a really good case for what your punishment should be. I think based on your record, an argument could be made for exceeding the guidelines in this case. I think you benefited from a pretty good plea offer. Otherwise, you would have been looking at guidelines that didn't even allow for a local sanction. But at this point, based on your record, your performance while you were on parole, the court doesn't see any reason at this point to sentence you to a lesser sanction. So the court is going to sentence you to 23 months to the Department of Corrections. Because of your parole status, you do have 0 days credit. The court is going to order a crime victim's assessment of $130, court costs of $325, attorney fees of $350, and $68 state costs. You do have the ability to seek an appeal of this sentence. Mr. Seeger, can you fill her out?
Your Honor, for the record, I'm giving her a copy of her apologize. Return a copy.
At this time, Ms. Hiller, you are remanded to the custody of the state.